we have two topics that we want to discuss. One
Yeah.
is mental health, well-being, how to deal with
Mm-mm.
mental health. Is that right, Alex? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
How do you attack it on a day-to-day basis, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah, cool. And then the second one is, does being in a relationship with somebody who has
Right.
a social media presence hinder the progression or the natural evolution of a relationship? Man, that just
Mm.
came out so smooth. That didn't even sound like that in my head. Here's what I vote, and tell me what you prefer. Yeah, we can either start with the social media presence and relationship thing, see if it leaks into mental health and well-being, or we
Mm.
start with mental health and well-being, see how we get on with that, and then just
So
move on to the next topic.
yeah, no, I think we should start off with the mental health part because I will start from my part because I've actually done
Right.
one video on mental health, and this
Okay.
video was during the start of my YouTube journey. So what happened was I was back at university. I used to play sports. I still play sports. Well, I was playing sports heavily that time, and I'm very good at quite a number of sports: table tennis, football. Anyways, as I was playing table tennis, there's this guy
Right.
who used to play table tennis with quite a lot. He's a Ghanaian guy. Obviously, back then, coming from a more of an African background, obviously mental health is something
Yeah.
that they just brush aside like, what's wrong with you? Like it's not that big deal.
100%.
And obviously I had that kind of mentality as well, to be honest with you. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie to you, I had that kind of mentality as well. So anyways, to cut the story short, I had two
Yeah.
jobs. One of them was in my university accommodation, which means that they gave me a place to stay. And the other
Yeah.
one was also at my university, but this was serving food. The one that
Cool.
they gave me a place to stay, obviously I got a bit complacent, so they sacked me. So now I have to move out to go and look for a place to stay. So obviously I call up the my guy that we used to play table tennis with. I was like, oh, can I come and stay in your place? But
Right.
obviously when I started staying in this place, the first couple of days was all right. Like nothing was happening. Like we're all cool. Then after like the next 2 days, obviously certain things were there was a sudden change. Like so I'm thinking, what's going on?
When you
And
say sudden change, do you mean in the relationship between you two or just in yourself?
nah, just sudden change in him. There were things that happened, like, but obviously I don't want to go too much in. But there
Into
was there
detail.
was a change in him, and so obviously, so it's like coming out with statements like, "Oh, they're against me, they're fighting me." So I'm thinking, so I'm looking around the room like, who is against you? Who's fighting you?
Yeah.
So, but I'm like wondering like, what's going on? Like he's seeing hallucinations and stuff. So obviously from
Okay.
sleeping in his room, obviously I progressed my way to sleeping in the lounge
Living
because
room.
obviously I didn't feel safe anymore. So
Yeah.
literally one day I was working in a breakfast, so I came back home and he had a knife and he was just walking around the lounge that I was staying in. So obviously while I'm sleeping, obviously I'm using one eye as well to look at the direction
To
of the knife as well to know where is it going to, you know what I mean? But obviously, and then all of a sudden, like obviously things happened as well. He ended up in London, so obviously, and then when that happened was he made a Snapchat video saying, "Oh, bye to my mum, bye to my dad," and obviously because I had a naive idea about mental health, I just thought, "Oh, listen, I'm tired anyway," and plus I thought, he's African, nothing's gonna happen. Let me
yeah,
go
just have the
sleep.
hard time deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and then his flatmates start knocking on the door like, have you seen this guy? Have you seen him? Have you heard the video? I was like, I was trying to act as if, no, I didn't see it. Like, nah, I didn't
Yeah,
see
yeah,
it.
yeah. Trying to play it down.
Before you know it, they called the police. And then when they called the police, obviously I've had to be going police station like every week, like not knowing this guy's in London somewhere. I think we've doing something else. But anyways, to cut the story short, after I saw this guy, after you can tell that physically, mentally, everything changed. It wasn't the same. Like it wasn't the same. And since that time, I thought, well, you know what? Mental health is something I need to start taking a bit serious. You know what I mean? Because the way it's, because obviously everybody goes. A lot of people go to the gym. They work on their physical health. Because
Yeah.
obviously that's what we see. But our mind as well. We need to work on our mind as well. We need
Absolutely.
to we definitely need to, because for me, probably my mind is probably my strongest aspect of myself. Only
Mm,
because obviously through my time I faced a lot of challenges, and I'll be
Yeah,
honest with you,
of
I faced
course.
a lot of challenges. Exercise is important for myself and for my mental ability. So sometimes we're about prioritizing, like, look, your health, your mental awareness is very, very important. And I think
yeah,
it's health is wealth, you know what I mean? And
Yeah, definitely.
we can make all these money, but if you don't have good health,
you just
it's
And
you
there's just
can't
no
take
point,
it
is
with
there?
you when you die.
there's no
Yeah,
point. There's no point, to be fair.
mental health is. I don't know what it's like. What you're gonna tell me your experience is gonna be like, Alex. I'm always happy to hear everybody's experience, but what Mr. CV has basically said is very similar to. I think it's I don't want to title it under black culture, okay? But I think it's very common in African society, especially from
Mm-mm.
like Nigerian society where I came from,
Okay.
where the term mental health, or you're depressed or you are stressed when you're a
Mm-mm.
specific age, for example, in life, is what are you stressed for? What are you depressed for? Like, you are
Mm.
not, it's not that you're depressed, it's that you're not solving the situation. You're not allowed, you are allowing the situation to take hold of you rather than you taking hold of the situation, right? And I was always raised with this saying, from my dad. Whenever I was frustrated about a problem or a situation, he would always say to me, "Does the problem have a mouth?" And I'll be like, "What do you mean? Does the problem have a mouth?" He's like, "Does the problem have a mouth?" And I'll say, "No." He said that it does. If it doesn't have a mouth, it doesn't have a brain. So therefore, it cannot be smarter than you because you have a brain. So therefore, you're not thinking about it the right way. That's why you
Oh,
are having these
wow.
feelings, right? So, I lived the best part of my teenage, my young, let's say from 13 up to 25, 26, with that notion of anything that is happening to me, it can't be smarter than me because it doesn't have a mouth. I'm not thinking about it properly. So therefore
Absolutely.
I'm
Yeah.
not solving the situation properly, right?
Mm.
And you would think, I guess, that that kind of advice is motivating or inspiring, but not always the case because in my experience, I ended up thinking myself into a depression. That's where, before I even knew that there was a term you could think yourself into a depression, I was already doing it, right? So I spent the best part of my young to medium adult life depressed without realizing I'm depressed. I just thought I'm frustrated. I'm the eldest of six siblings, so I am the first. And like I said, in our culture, when you're the firstborn, you you have a responsibility that everything you do, everybody behind you will follow you. You got to do everything by the proverbial book. So I spent a lot of time, in a place of depression without realizing. When my marriage ended, that just pushed me over the edge because you're raised to believe that you go to school, you go to college, you go to university, you get a good job, you find a good woman, you settle down, you get married, then you've clocked life. You've clocked it now. Everything else after marriage is supposed to be, I don't know, on autopilot. You have that
Yeah.
naive feeling. So that's what happened to me anyway. And obviously, it didn't go the way that the plan was supposed to have gone, and everything fell to pieces. And I lived in a very, very, dark place. The term is where I learned the term Murphy's Law, where anything that can go wrong will go wrong, kind of scenario.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
for the bet, yeah, or the better description is anything that can happen will happen. So whether good or bad, Murphy's Law comes into play. So I had the negative impact of Murphy's Law. I lost my wife. I didn't feel great about myself because if your marriage or your relationship ends, you don't feel good about yourself because you take it personally. I couldn't be there for my kids as well as I wanted to. Then I lost multiple jobs back to back. Like I couldn't hold a job down for 2 3 months. Then I almost became homeless. And there are a few other things in the background that happened, but I just remember being in a place where I just sat on my bed and I just didn't want to get up. I didn't want to get up, to pull myself out of there, because I believe sometimes if you're very lucky and you're very blessed, you will have somebody in your life that will help pull you from the darkness and never get fed up and never get tired of you. And I think at some point you need to be able to have had somebody who's been in the darkness before to know how to pull you out of the darkness versus somebody who's never really had such an experience, right? And I just remember having to pull myself out because a lot of people come to me for guidance to pull them out. So if I can't be Superman, no one's going to be able to. I'm not going to be able to be what people need me to be, I guess. So I think I just remember laying there and listening to a lot of motivational stuff, because that's what we do, don't we? We go to the motivational videos, and we go to the
Yeah.
self help books because that's what people say, and
Mm.
we don't listen to the thing inside the whisper inside us that tells us just do this one thing, and I think I went through loads of self help. I went through Eric Thomas, T.D. Jakes, Mel Robbins, Lisa Nichols, Tony Robbins. I went through all those guys, Inky Johnson. And then I just, I found, as corny as it sounds, the 5 second rule to just get me out of bed, do you know? And I had
Yeah, yeah,
to, yeah, and I had to sit down and this is the hardest. I think this is the hardest part when you're going through any form of stuff like this, is trying to find what you're good at. Just like MrCV said, I know one thing I was good at. I can lift weights. Do you know what I mean? I can
yeah,
lift
yeah.
weights, and I can mark progression on lifting
Definitely.
weights. Do you know what I mean? Because you can tell every day if you're getting stronger, and the only thing I got to do is show up, right? I just got to turn up and just do that consistently, because at least that was still running in my life. My gym membership was still running for some reason. No matter how broken thingy I was, my gym membership was still running. So I did that, and I just made a
Mm.
point to get up every day and just do that one thing. Just do
Wow.
that, and just through doing that and making it look like, do you know what, I'm okay at this, I can do this, without realizing it. The same way you thought yourself into depression is the same way you think yourself into progression. I try to let people know that depression is a thing, mental health is a thing. Do you understand? Everybody's mental health is not on a chart, so you can equate whose is worse and whose is better or whatever. Everybody has it. Do you know what I mean? But the same way everybody can have this situation, you have to try to make sure that the situation doesn't have you, you know?
Of course. Yeah.
Because as I look now and people will say to me, "Oh my God, you're so confident, or you're so this, or you're so that." Listen, I have bad days. I have bad weeks. Do you know what I mean? But I try not
Yeah.
to let them have me. Yeah, I just try not to let them have me anymore. I have them rather than them having me. What about you? What did you want to say? What's your experience, or where do you want to come from? Come with this.
Well, so it's kind of hard to know where to start really, because I know I've had quite a few bad experiences over the years, and I've still got some struggles now. But I mean, I've just learned to deal with. I suppose I've just learned to manage them better mentally, and I don't let them have as much of a mental impact on me as I used to.
Yeah,
But I mean, obviously, I always struggled through school. I mean, both throughout primary and secondary school. It didn't work for me. It wasn't for me, and I think the thing is as well, because you have to go to school, like it's the law. So I had no choice at that point in my life, and I just hated it every day, like every single day.
yeah,
I just had to go and do it and stick with it. And obviously my mental health, it suffered as a result, so much over the years. And obviously, but at the time, like you were saying, I didn't realize that this is actually depression or anxiety that I'm suffering with.
yeah,
I just feel scared.
yeah,
So I didn't really understand it at that point. And then of course, I mean, obviously I left school, and then obviously I learned a bit more about mental health, and then it kind of got to a point, even when I was at college, because college, I just expected things to get so much better, and they didn't. Like, although
yeah,
I was
yeah,
the course, I did enjoy the course and stuff, but the people, I wasn't, I didn't
no
really
man,
particularly keen on the people, and again, the whole education system. I was in the most toxic relationship
in
Yeah.
the world. But like, and then obviously at that point, because I kind of learned what depression was. I kind of knew, yeah, I've hit rock bottom. And it took
Yeah.
me so long to get out of this. I mean, I got cheated on 4 times. She lied to me about being pregnant.
Mm.
And then, I mean, at the time,
Nonsense.
yeah, so there was a lot of stuff that went on there. And it took me like, I think 8 months before I got myself out of that situation. Because I think when you really care about a person, I think especially because that was like my first proper relationship as well. And, you know, you kind of, even though deep down you know what they're doing to you, you keep going back, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's easier said than
Yeah.
done to just walk away in a lot of situations.
Oh,
And then,
100%.
but yeah, so I ended up getting out of that. And then, of course, I still had the struggles with college and everything. And then I ended up getting pneumonia.
Oh, wow.
So
Sorry
this
to hear
was,
that.
no, thank you, man. But yeah, definitely. So I had to obviously leave college, and then eventually,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
it took its toll on me. And you know, for a while,
Yeah.
you know, I was literally just sitting at home. I was going to bed at like 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, and then I wouldn't wake up till like
Yeah.
3, 4 in the afternoon. That was like, and then I would just sit at home, watch TV, eat
Yeah.
junk food, and that would be my life. And for about 9 months, it took me about 9 months till I got myself out of that place. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden, you know, I started work. I got a small job. It wasn't like anything big, but I was in a couple of bands. I just got up and running. Things were going well. Then lockdown happened, and then I just thought I'm in the same position again. My life's put on hold again, so I had a bit of a
Yeah.
breakdown once that all happened. And then I got through. Obviously, had to get through it. Did what I had to do,
Yeah.
but then you know, it was obviously went on for 2 years. But then obviously I then got a job, which
Yeah.
I couldn't stand it.
Yeah.
And I just, I mean, I had a few jobs throughout lockdown as well, but they didn't last long because of the situation we were in. You know, they couldn't keep me on because, you know,
Hey,
they didn't
bro,
have
I
enough
feel
money
you.
and whatnot. So it was,
Yeah.
but yeah. Anyway, so I managed to get this one job that I managed to stick with for about 4 months, but it was awful, and I absolutely hated it. And it took,
Yeah.
and because obviously having to go through school and stuff, I promised myself I never wanted to do a job that I hated. And obviously,
Yeah.
I was in that same
100%.
position again, and I was just like, God's sake, I can't. So I left that job,
Yeah.
and I very much came to the decision. This is why I talk about my music and stuff now. And I know a lot of people
Yeah.
are going to disagree with the predicament I'm in at the moment, but
Right.
like, I'm very much. I made the deal with myself. I am purely going to focus on my drumming until I make it. I'm not
Okay.
going to do any other job alongside it. That is going to be my number one focus, no matter what.
Okay.
And then, you know, so
Well,
I'm
there's
not.
nothing wrong with that.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that because I know a lot of people, you know, they're saying, you know, oh, you need the money coming in, you need this, you need that, you need the other. And it's like, well, yeah, but at the same time, if I'm going to do a job that I hate, it's going to have an impact on my mental health. And that's more important than money, in my opinion. You
Mhm.
need to be happy and satisfied with what you're doing at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I'll admit, I'm not in
So,
the best. Sorry, go on.
financial place. No, no, go for it, bro.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm not in the best financial place at the moment, but you know what? I'm getting by with what I've got and I can scrape through at the end of the day. And, you know, I am earning money from the gigs I am doing. So I've just got to stick with that and I'll get more as time goes on. But I think over the years, I have very much learned that, you know, if you are suffering with mental health, and it came to this, this happened when, you know, my mum came out of hospital because it had been a really traumatic time. And
Yeah.
I was very much reflecting on it. And then I was very much just sitting around, very much just wallowing in self pity. And
Yeah.
so what happened from that point on, I very much woke up and I was just like, well, you know what, you got to stop behaving like a child and you just got to snap out of this. So I started getting up early. I was exercising. You know, I started jogging. I started meditating. Watched more motivational videos. I was taking cold showers. You know, I went to war with myself in many ways. And of
Yeah.
course, I mean, and you know, since then, like since the start of this year, I feel like I've had like a miraculous turnaround as far as mental
Turn
health
around.
goes. And I think, and I mean, I still have my down days. Don't get me wrong. I still have struggles, and I think I've got a hell of a long way to go because I'm 21 at the end of the day, and
Mm.
you know, I've still got a lot to learn, and I know that.
Yeah.
And but it's just about, I think, instead of just, but you know, my point is, instead of sitting around just complaining about things, whether you're unwell, whether you're in a job you hate, whether you're suffering from past trauma or whatever it is, you need to think, okay, how can I do something about this, and then look at what options are out there. And like, for
I
me,
hear you, man.
recently, I've just decided, right, I'm going to purely focus on my goals. I'm going to exercise. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to make sure that I'm basically training my mind and my body and my spirit, so it's all one. So whenever challenges do come away, like if I get a 4 o'clock in the morning call that my mum's dead, like I don't fall apart basically, because life is always going to have challenges at the end of the day. No matter what, we're going to have issues, no matter how big or small. And I think we just have to accept that. But I know for me personally, getting up early, exercising, eating healthy, not I'm not saying you shouldn't drink at all, like, or eat any junk food, because it's good to treat ourselves, but don't drink
Balance.
too much. Try and cut down on bad food as much as you can, and yeah, do a job you love and just surround your life with positive people. I think that is the best way to deal with it at the end of the day. Yeah, that's my thoughts on the situation. I really appreciate what you guys had to say as well. You've both been through a lot, but you've come at the end of the day. You've made a massive comeback, and the comeback's always bigger than the setback at the end of the day. So you've both done absolutely amazing.
100%. And I appreciate, look, I was listening to you and I was looking at you, and I could 100% tell that as hard as that was for you to say it and be vulnerable at this point, you got to be proud of yourself for that, man. And it
Oh,
sounds super patronizing, and I'm really working on the way that I say be proud of yourself. But it's not easy to share vulnerabilities, and we're guys, we're men right now, yeah. We're
yeah,
three
yeah, absolutely.
guys talking about a topic that you probably don't hear. A lot of guys will probably talk who don't know each other really and talk about it. So you got to be proud of yourself for being able to speak about it. Okay.